welcome back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Joel.
And I'm Allison.
Allison is back for
making a return.
Yes.
A return.
One night only.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So we're excited to have her back. We're going to start with the question, if you could start your own business, what would it be and how would it be unique? We were kind of talking about this last week at lunch, Allison, Kent, and I, and so it got me thinking, what would you have, Joel?
If I could start my own business, I feel like in some ways,
You already did.
in a way I did. But honestly, I was thinking about this earlier today, and just because of, there are jobs much more stressful than what I do, but just because of how sprawling the responsibilities of pastoral life can be and what it is for me, I think like something very simple.
Yeah.
Like I've thought before how great it would be to own a parking garage in the downtown of a city to where you have to pay one person at a time. You just have to deal with cars coming in and out. And if you can get the capital up front to buy the parking garage, it's a pretty simple business.
Yeah.
So I think that would be it. But the unique part of the job would be that I would have complete hands-on control of the playlist of the music playing on every level of the parking garage. And I would just make that playlist so curated to the greatest of rock and roll
level.
Yeah, volume, song selection, order of songs, flow of songs. Anybody who's been on a road trip with me know that I really like to have control of the music. So that would be the one thing, is like people want to park there because the tunes are good when you're walking in and out. That would be the move.
The vibes.
Yeah.
The vibes. So I had a really quick answer when we were at lunch because I have thought about this many, many times in my life. But I would love to own a chicken and waffles food truck. Because
That's so specific.
because first of all, I love both of those things.
Yeah.
But together, chef's kiss. But you could have it the traditional way as the Lord intended, but you could also have like
Wait, you need to go. What's the way the Lord intended for our listeners who might not know?
Flat waffle with syrup, fried chicken,
That's
just
the-
right on top.
Yeah.
Yep.
But what are the
But
other
you-
moves?
Well, I'm thinking, okay, if I have a taco truck, we could also have like a chicken sandwich where you have like two waffles that might be the bun, you know?
Yeah.
You could have a taco where the waffle is the tortilla, you know, and you have
Folded,
chicken, chicken strips in the middle.
Would you add any other like flavors outside of the sweetness of the syrup?
So-
like some Tabasco spicy
Yes.
and
Yes,
syrup?
for certain. And then also I think you could have like waffles, like special waffles of the week, you know what I mean? Where
yeah.
you like fruit it up with different things. that
Bob's
weren't
Burgers
necessarily-
styles of
Not
chicken and waffles.
necessarily, you know, just the chicken and waffles. But clearly I think about fried chicken and waffles way more than the average person. But
I haven't had it in so long, and now I'm like, that sounds delightful.
It is so delightful.
Let me be the first to say on the pod, I'm investing in. Do you have a
Chicken and
name?
waffles?
Do you have a name?
No.
Oh, I wish there was a whole like. She's like, oh, while you ask, I have this whole marketing plan, and here's the name.
I can make
Allison's
one
like,
stat.
I'm putting in my 2 weeks.
Yes. Today's my last day. I will be opening this truck next week.
Yeah, enjoy doing that in the winter in Indiana too.
Okay. But anyways, yes.
That's awesome.
Chicken and waffles food truck.
I love that.
What about you, Abby?
I think I would want to have like a game store that you can go and play games, buy games, whatever, but also have it be like a pizza shop. For whatever reason, when I play board games, I crave
want it.
pizza. And so
love it.
I feel like that would be the perfect, get some pizza, beer or pop
Listen.
or whatever. Yeah,
Yep.
that would be
Would people
amazing
bring their
game
own
nights.
games?
You could.
could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been in game
Yes.
shops where people bring
Okay.
their own
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but I think that
And
would
what
be
kind
so
of
much
pizza
fun.
would we talking? Deep dish, thin crust.
I like thin crust.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we want the crispy. The crispy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Deep dish. Yeah.
It's lasagna. It's not really pizza. It's good. It's its own thing.
lasagna.
It's
It's
its own
lasagna
thing.
pizza. It's not
Yeah,
really
yeah.
pizza.
But also,
Yeah.
if you're in it, if you're the the owner of this shop, you don't want to be selling deep dish because people will eat one slice and then they get full and they don't buy anymore. So you gotta, what's gonna keep them buying
Yeah.
more
and
pizza?
people get mad at deep dish too because it takes like 45 minutes to cook, and you even tell them that
That's
it doesn't
true,
matter. It feels like way too long.
It's also greasier, and that would get all over the cards
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah,
We do need to have a disclaimer though. If you're listening and you're from the Chicagoland area,
We love your
apologize.
pizza.
We love
We
you.
just-
We
Yeah.
love you, and to each their own.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Once a
please
year,
don't
deep
send the
dish.
mob after me.
Yep.
The Chicagoland listeners.
Well, our first topic today, it's a Washington Post article titled, "At 81, she just voted for the first time. Made me feel like I was American." Betty Cartledge, an 81-year-old woman living in Georgia, recently voted for the first time in her life. Despite being unable to read or write, Cartledge decided to cast her ballot in the upcoming presidential election with the help of her niece. She had been thinking about voting before, but was hesitant because she was unsure of the process. On October 16th, Cartledge went to her local early voting station and was able to successfully vote. She said the experience made her feel like she was American. Cartledge has lived in Georgia her entire life, but this was the first time she felt empowered to participate in the democratic process. Cartledge said the experience of casting her ballot was easier and more emotional than she had anticipated. It was amazing, she said, adding, "If I could do it, other people who can't read and write can do it too. Now I'm not ashamed of it." So what'd you think of this story?
Way to go, Betty. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was so cool to think like of that moment of, you know, letting so much of life pass by without jumping in and participating, and that pride that she felt of being like, oh, I can be a part of something.
Yeah.
I do have a voice, even though she couldn't read or write in typical ways to understand what was going on, or maybe she was discouraged to vote because of those things. Way to go. I think the unsung hero in the story just gets one line, but it's her niece that like
Yeah.
took her and talked to her about it and encouraged her inside of that act. So I think it's really cool. And it's one of those things. Here we are, like by the time this gets released, this is election week in that way, and so election day. So have you guys already voted?
I have already voted.
Yeah, I have not.
And actually,
we need to. It's right now down the street, and I need to do it early. But there's part of me that wants to go do it the day of and suffer with everybody.
No.
I don't know why. It feels more American
Yeah.
to stand in a line. I know that's not true.
Well,
but-
I've done that before as well, or thought that.
Yeah.
But so my mom actually works in the election office leading up to
Yeah.
election day, and so far, like Joel said, we are just over a week before actual election day, and more than 13,000 people have already voted in our county, which
That's
that
awesome.
seems
That's
wild, but also so exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you, I kept thinking of Betty's niece in this article too, and I'm wondering, you know, hindsight's always 20/20, but I'm like, man, I wonder if now she would have asked her sooner,
Yeah.
you know, to take her. But yeah, I had so many thoughts because, you know, like Betty, I know so many people who think their one vote doesn't really make a difference, but you know, for me, like the fact people literally fought and died over your right to be able to do so not that
Yeah.
long ago, like for me, that's difference enough. Like I never want to take it for granted being able to have that opportunity. So excited for Betty. Also, just what a tragedy in the year 2024 to still have people, like I just think about her not being able to read and write and just how limiting that is.
Yeah.
So I had so many thoughts after reading this article because I
Yeah,
was so
yeah.
excited, but then I was like, oh,
Yeah. There's
Come
a lot
on,
of
there's so
barriers
many-
when
Ton of barriers.
when
Yes.
you're not able to read and write. Yeah. And I think also there's just so much shame behind, you know, having so many
Yes.
opportunities to do something and choosing not to.
or other life experiences
Yeah.
that made you not be able to.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And then you think like, oh, I'm 37 and I don't know how to swim, or I don't know how to ride
Yeah,
my bike.
right,
And then
yeah.
there's shame, and then you just let it go
You
by.
don't
do it. You just
and
never
I
do.
get I get that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially if this was something which probably is something that there was an extenuating circumstance in her upbringing
Yeah.
that
Yeah, yeah.
she
Yep.
was encouraged. I have a friend who can't read
Yeah.
or write very well, and it's amazing the way that he's so intelligent. He's
Yeah.
so
Yes.
smart, and the way that he can get around certain things and still move and do his thing because he's so smart. But it is one of those things like it's really hard to start over. Like
Yes.
it's hard for it would
So
be
hard.
it'd be so hard and so much work for me to like start over learning Spanish right now at
Yeah.
37. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
it'd be that kind of a thing. So yeah, there's a lot of barriers, and I think a lot of that is why some people probably don't vote. But it
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're not intelligent. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't let their voice be heard, which
Yeah.
I love in the story, the niece who said, no, your voice does matter,
Yes.
even if you don't have these accolades to your name. And I think just heading into, you know, election week, and I mean, we can spend hours and hours and weeks talking about how, you know, our disappointments or our challenges with government and politics. But it is one of those things I always want to stop, you know, when we get to this moment and be like, you know, with all of the warts that we have in our country and all the broken things and all of the people that are using this and all the this and that, it is an amazing thing that we actually get to have a say in what is going on in our world and going on in our country and the communities that we raise our kids in and do life in. I'm reminded of Winston Churchill has this quote. He wasn't even American, but they vote in England too. But he has this quote: "Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others." And I just think there's always just like a great little British snark in that, thinking like, yeah, it's not perfect, but you know what? I'm so glad I live in a place where I actually have a voice in these decisions. And just another little shout out for election day stuff. Like, man, I know we only seem to talk about the very top of the ticket and the two people that are running for president, but man, we think about our neighbors and the people that are directly around us that Jesus calls us to love. We need to get educated and learn about our local officials and who's running and what they're about, and not just, look towards Washington like that's going to fix all our problems or that's going to destroy everything. But we're called to love our neighbors, and local politicians have local ideas on policies that affect literally our neighbors. So look into that, get yourself educated on it, vote your conscience inside of it. But way to go, Betty. What an inspiration. And so maybe someone listened to this, maybe you're not 81, but maybe you've sat out a couple of elections. You think, oh, I have to choose the lesser of two evils, and oh, it doesn't mean anything because this in Indiana. Like, maybe this could encourage you to let your voice be heard and to love and serve your neighbors through simply doing a ballot.
And also, like you mentioned, you were talking to people who maybe haven't voted in a while, but also if you are listening to this and you know somebody who maybe hasn't voted, like, have them go with you encourage them. Yeah, because I've taken people to vote before, and it's really simple to be able to assist somebody in voting, especially at I only have experience here where we live, but you go, you fill out a simple little form that says, I'm assisting this person with their vote, because either they can't read, they can't write, they whatever the process is. Maybe they don't understand the form or the technology, and you sign it, and that form gets stapled to their ballot and gets run through the machine, and that's it. So, like, anyone can go and help somebody.
I had no idea that's how it worked.
Yeah.
That's really simple. Yeah.
It's really simple too, but we were just having a conversation around a staff meeting earlier today about some people that have started coming to our church that don't have transportation to church. And maybe it's not a disability or them not being able to read or write, but maybe they don't have a ride to a polling station. Maybe that could be a way that you could help somebody and give them dignity and remind them of their God-given dignity and their voice. So I love that. That's such a cool challenge for us all to be thinking about. It's like when we say come to church and bring somebody with you. Go vote and bring somebody with you. I mean, ask if they want to go. Don't just throw somebody in your car.
Make sure they have their own opinions and you're not just telling them what to do. That would be the other side note to that.
So what would you say to someone in your life that's like Betty, like an older family member or friend who hasn't ever voted? What would you say to them to encourage them and have them go out and vote?
I would come back to this reality of these leaders that we get a voice to elect make decisions that affect real people, and they can harm people or they can help people. And if that family member was a follower of Jesus, I would encourage them to follow Jesus and look out for others and look out for the marginalized and the people that will be affected by the decisions that are made, and be like, we can be a part of helping people, in that way. And that is not saying that one vote or one person has got everything lined up with Jesus or like they're God's person, like not that at all. But when we have a choice to help decide who's making decisions, I think we should bring that to the table, because these decisions affect people and God loves people. So that'd be my thing. And to Allison's point of, we live in a place where people sacrificed much so that we could have this kind of freedom. So don't throw that away.
Yeah. And just, it's easy to read, headlines or, see the memes on social media. And then you're like, well, I don't know. Everybody seems terrible. Well, let's research what's actually facts. And, I would love to do that with someone if they weren't sure, or even if you don't want to, maybe you are so confused by all of the back and forth of, more national politics. Okay, so let's look locally. Like, what are your school board members look like? Like, what are your, you know what I mean? Like, what are these local positions? And maybe those, you don't have to vote for every single thing on the ballot.
You don't
either.
have to fill every
you
space.
Don't.
No.
So, if that is confusing, like, let's just make it smaller and, just vote for your local people.
Yeah, I love that. Our second topic today is a Today article titled "Runner Finishes Chicago Marathon in Heels. Curtis Hargrove, a 35-year-old Canadian, ran the 2024 Chicago Marathon in 3-inch red heels to raise awareness for women and children affected by domestic violence. He partnered with an organization called Stepping Stones Crisis Society that advocates for victims of domestic abuse. He said, I got my buddies to actually weld my high heels on the bottom so that they wouldn't break, and that's what led us to the Chicago Marathon. He said, I didn't do any special prep, but it was a mental game. I've done over 300 marathons, so I knew I could finish, but my concern was if the high heels would hold up. After 7 hours and 5 minutes, Hargrove crossed the finish line despite his battered and bleeding feet. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of determination. I can't go like 5 minutes in heels before I'm complaining and wanting to take them off. And that's walking.
Yes. Also, do not go to his Instagram and see the after
it was
pictures.
gross.
I make poor choices, and this won't be the last one I ever make, but it is one that I regret for certain.
Gross.
Second, every man who designs high heels should have to do this. I think they would change the design in an instant if that was the case.
They'd find a way to make them comfy. Yeah,
Exactly.
Women still buy them. Don't throw it all on the
No,
men,
I
you
know. I'm
guys.
just saying, just throwing it out there. But for real, like, this is amazing. And I cannot imagine, like, the mental, physical, emotional struggle. Even though he said he's done 300 marathons, which is wild in itself. But
But you do that in like ergonomically correct shoes and like these shoes that are perfect for this long distance kind of thing. To think like every step, just the pain that you would be experiencing, I cannot imagine. So I'm like, why is there? Wasn't there another way to raise awareness? Like, why are you ever going to be able to walk normal again? Like, is this irreversible after you guys talking about this foot pick? I mean, gosh, I just can't imagine irreversible.
we didn't pay for those either.
Good.
But I mean, anyone who will quite literally walk a mile in someone else's shoes to raise awareness for any cause, like, I think that is a huge deal. Anytime we can let some, people know that they're seen and they're not alone and they're supported in whatever way that might look like that's a win for humans. So, I mean, kudos to him. But his feet never recover.
I just love that it was something he chose to do on his own. Like, there's so many, marathons
Specific
and stuff.
walks or
that are
runs.
specific to a certain organization or a issue going on. But he chose to do this on his own, and I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, about 7 years ago, I walked a 5K in my bare feet outside for a fundraiser for a mission organization in Haiti. And I remember thinking, like, there were like 4 or 5 options to raise some money to do this. And I'm like, this is the easy one. And it was like, just even walking in my neighborhood that has decent sidewalks, like after like 15 minutes, I'm like, nope, I hate it here. And it really hurt. My dogs are barking. I'll tell you that much. Rocks and like just gross stuff. And I'm like, 5K walking, that's a lot longer, especially when you're walking gingerly on your feet. But it was a pretty profound moment about halfway through when I sort of settled into the pain I was going to be in, just thinking like, oh, like this is what a lot of people across the globe do every day. So slow your roll, Joel. Chill out and do the thing and raise some money for a good cause. But this is
26.2 miles.
Much more intense. I can't even imagine. So, pretty incredible determination and stupidity. No, I don't know.
Do you feel like he accomplished his goal?
I hadn't heard about it until now, so I don't know how widespread this got. But Abby heard about it, and today's show talked about it. I guess. So.
I was gonna say, you'll always have some people that miss the plot or turn his good into something it was never intended to represent or whatever. But I'd say the more you can try to bring awareness, like you said, it was talked about on the Today Show, for goodness sake. So like, it can't be bad. You know?
And like I said, he's just one person, but he even had like women coming up to him afterwards telling their stories to him and thanking him for what he was doing. So I feel like, for being a single person, he accomplished his goal. Like, it didn't have to be some crazy big thing where it was 100,000 people doing this. He did it on his own, and I thought that was awesome.
That is wild.
What's something big you were able to accomplish through determination? A big project or something like that?
Mine is really lame, but it's very recent.
Okay.
On Friday morning, we were waking up to take our 2 boys to Chicago for the day. They'd never been to the big city. And we were going to go to this Bluey house, this interactive thing. We were going to take them to the Lincoln Park Zoo and have a nice lunch in the city and bop around all day long. So I had just got some new socks and was getting ready to leave and got on some hardwood stairs and slipped and fell and really hurt my foot really bad. And at first I thought, I just need to shake it off. I took my sock off and most of my foot was just black. And Megan's like, you should probably stay home because you're not going to be able to do anything today. I'm like, it's going to get better. And so I went because I didn't want to miss that time stubbornly. I'm glad I went. But like, in the city, there's a lot of walking and there's a lot of standing and in the zoo and stuff. And it was like 3 p.m. and I just they were probably 5 or 6 steps in front of me and I was just grimacing every time they turn around I would try to smile, be like, this is so great, boys. Oh gosh, no. And you're looking at your watch at the end of the day and seeing how much you walked and then your foot is just, I'm like, my shoe just feels so small because it was so swollen. And so that's just recent determination or stupidity for me to do it. But I didn't stay home because I wanted to be there with the boys.
And also we're not going to post a picture of Joel's after.
You're not going to put a foot pic on the show notes?
Nope.
Dogs out for Jesus? No? Okay. It's pretty rough.
Yeah. So I thought of 2 pretty quick. One was, I didn't run a full marathon. I ran a half marathon several years ago, but I've had asthma since I was a kid and was always told you can't run. And even in high school when you have to run the mile around the track, always last, just wanted to die, sucking on an inhaler, whatever. But so yeah, it was a lot of training, a lot of inhalers on standby, a lot of determination, and I probably got passed by a man in heels. I have no idea.
but you did it.
But I finished,
That's awesome.
And then, the other one would be finishing college. So for me, it took me 12 years. I'm not a doctor, but it took me 12 years.
12 years.
And I only have an undergraduate degree, but it was important for me to show my girls that we finish what we started, even if it's hard. And so even if I never ever use that piece of paper that's currently collecting dust in a drawer somewhere, I was going to finish. So, anyways, what about you, Abby?
When I was in high school, I really wanted to take a trip out to California. And so I worked babysitting a bunch and raised enough money or earned enough money to take me and my best friend, my dad, out there. And it was the coolest trip I'd ever gone on. I mean, I hadn't
Where all did you go?
We were in Los Angeles, and so we went...
Hollywood.
Yeah, we went to Hollywood. We went and watched a recording of Adventures in Odyssey and, did a bunch of other fun stuff while we were out there. But I think, as a high schooler, looking back, I don't have that much motivation now. How did I have that much motivation then?
Need a goal.
Yeah. But that was something cool that I was able to do.
And you had to save to make that happen, right?
Yeah.
And that's that's a huge thing when you're younger to be you have to say no to yourself now so that you can get a yes later. And I'm like, man, we need to retrain ourselves and our culture in that. But that's huge. That's a ton of determination.
That's so fun.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. Our last article today is a Relevant Magazine article titled "Don't Just Serve the Poor." The author argues that we need to rethink how we serve the poor. Charity and giving material things is important, but it's not enough. We need to focus more on development, investing in people and their futures, breaking cycles of oppression, and building relationships. The author outlined several key principles of development based on the Bible and the example of Jesus. Development asks what people need rather than assuming. It's about working alongside people, and it aims to address root causes of poverty rather than just treating the symptoms. Development creates opportunities for people to work and use their God-given potential. The author concludes that there's a time for charity, but we need to move beyond that to true development that empowers people, restores dignity, and leads to lasting change. This requires seeking God first and serving out of that relationship, not our own agendas or desire to feel good about ourselves. The goal should be to see the whole body of Christ, including the poor, truly thrive. So what do you guys think about this and the author saying that giving needed items sometimes hurts more than helps?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it, and I think very well-intentioned people and people of faith who I think are moved by compassion, which is a great thing. We can be very short-sighted and cause more harm than we can good by just throwing money at or throwing items at an issue instead of what I think the work of development that they talk about in the article is it's not as sexy. It doesn't look as cool for pictures.
Takes longer.
It takes longer. It's slow.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's generational. And in our very microwaved fast food drive-through kind of culture, like, what do I need to do right now to fix this? I'm going to throw this at the problem. It kind of it's clashing with that. I think of the same reality inside of evangelical churches with short-term mission trips. I know that I think the tide is sort of turning in this, but for the longest time, like some of the biggest outreach work that churches ever did was you raise a ton of money and you go to some village in a very destitute place in the world and you go serve them for a week. You get your pictures that you post on your social media for a while. And then you come home and you never see these people again. You don't have relationships with them, but you feel really good about yourself. And ultimately, how that doesn't get the job done. Like, of all the money that's been spent in some of the impoverished places in Africa, they're the same, kind of place because there wasn't that slow development, relational work. I have the privilege of serving on the board of directors as the president of Kokomo Urban Outreach here in town, and Jeff Newton is our founder and director. And it's probably been about 7 or 8 years ago now that he handed me a book and our board a book called Toxic Charity. The subtitle of the book by Robert Lupton was How Churches and Charities Hurt Those They Help. And one of the most glaring statements from early in the book, I'll never forget, Lupton says this: giving to those in need what they could be gaining from their own initiative may well be the kindest way to destroy people. I think that idea, the kindest way to destroy people. And it's something that's always stuck with me and challenged me in moments of wanting to do something and actually slowing down and thinking, okay, how do I actually do the harder, slower work and be a part of the solution to why they got there, not just in this moment. And Jeff, throughout the years, has really impressed on me that there is a difference between the emergency of helping somebody go through poverty, because a lot of poverty is situational and it's a season or it's an emergency based thing like a natural disaster. And yes, meet those needs, go. They need things right now so they can live for tomorrow. The problem occurs more so when we don't help people get out of poverty, but we are just always in that cycle of just helping them and just sort of
teaching them to fish instead of
instead of just giving them fish. But beyond that, and I love what they talk about in this article about asking questions and seeing the potential in people. Again, I feel like I'm just quoting all the things I've heard Jeff say for 10 years, but Jeff says it's not just teaching them how to fish. Sometimes they need access to your pond. They don't even know where the pond is. And so we all have our networks from where we live, and a lot of people don't have access to those networks. So it's inviting them to see your life and do life with you, and you connect them with people that you know so that they have access to the pond. And that is less of a looking at people like, oh, look how sad they are, and realizing, oh, they have potential and I have this connection and I can connect them, instead of it just being me throwing something at them. So I just resonate so deeply with what the article says. I think that's something that at our church that we want to be a part of, is we want to ask the question, and we like to say the language of we want to hear the cries of our community, not just assuming this is what's wrong here and this is what we need to do, but we want to hear the cries of our community and respond to it. And in a lot of our community impact work, we go and we talk with the people that are doing this full time and seeing how can we come support you and pour fuel on your fire, instead of being like, here at Bridgeway, we want to start this initiative and do this, which is very much coming in, we're the savior, you don't know what you're doing. But we want to come alongside and support. And I love that. And I think that that's more than just serving the poor. It's coming alongside of them, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think to kind of go along with what you were saying, maybe in these instances where we are doing things for either nonprofits or charities or even individuals that we know who, might need a hand up, like maybe it's not posting about it on social media when you do it. Maybe it's about doing it because it's the right thing to do, regardless of if anyone ever knows you did it or not. I just think of, myself and as Jesus followers, like that's not, you're missing the plot, I guess, when we want to make it more about ourselves and the things that we're doing versus just doing the thing because it's
Yeah.
the right thing.
And we want the accolades. We want the lights. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And any time that it shifted around to look at me, look at me, look at me, I think Jesus is face palming. He's just like, what? What are you doing? The reward is in actually serving somebody. You don't get a reward from,
And I understand, again, the tension of, hey, maybe if I post this, other people will want to do this similar thing. And you know what I mean? So I understand some of that as well. But I feel like you can do that through your closer friends and family who, you know, you might talk about it. But at the end of this article, literally the very last paragraph, it was so good. It was literally
You just want to read it? You just want to read it? Yeah, read the last paragraph.
Is that okay? It says, I guess what I really meant when I said I don't want to serve the poor was I don't want to serve the poor if it's creating an oppressive system that fosters dependency and destroys dignity. I want to do more, to do better for society. I want to serve through charity when needed, but I also want to build relationships and empower people through development, even if that is messy and complicated and I don't see results as quickly. I want to seek God first so that through him I can serve and better support others who serve in a way that leads us all to thrive rather than just survive, in a way that gives people eternal life rather than just a longer life. I want to change the way we view the poor so that way we can change the way we serve the poor so that the body of Christ can truly be restored. I was like, that's it. Yep. That's it. I don't have anything else to say.
Yep.
Mic
So
drop.
good.
And,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
So good.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like partnering with God. That's what it looks like. So love it.
Yeah. So how can people push towards development when they're just one person, like they're not connected with an organization or a church or anything like that?
When people feel like they're just one person and so they
don't do anything.
aren't sure how to do anything or what are they going to do, like it's literally about relationships. So it's going to be you and one other person, probably, whether they're connected to a church that you go to or through some organization that you partner with or just somebody that you literally met in a taxi. I don't know, but it's going to be the relationships that you formed and the influence that you have on their life and the connections that you have and being able to just partner with them, and it's going to be slow.
I would just add on top of that too, we can't be paralyzed just by the grandness of these issues. Life is really a series of saying yes or just ignoring God's prompts in our lives. And the things in front of us is just one person at a time so often, like Allison said. So I would just say, like, man, if there is an issue, if there's a problem, if there's something that, you know, pulls at your heart, if there's a person that pulls on your heart, just say yes to doing something about it and trust God in the process that he'll lead you. Get other people around you, ask them for wisdom in it, but don't be paralyzed in not doing anything because you feel like you can't fix the world.
Yeah.
It's not on you to fix the world. It's on you to love who's in front of you, and that's what God's calling you to be faithful in that situation. So let your heart be open and broken to the things and the people around you, and then just respond as if Jesus would respond. And that often is just by a conversation, a meal, asking questions, getting to know them, and then maybe hearing more about why they found themselves in this situation that they found themselves in. And I think in that, from that place of empathy and curiosity and love, you'll be led in the right direction. But whatever you do, don't just be paralyzed, or don't just be like, well, I don't have time for this, I'm just going to throw a check at this situation. A check, what am I? Boomer over here. Sorry for our boomer check writers. But I just feel like, just find a way to say yes and then go one step at a time.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to talk about, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Atypical Talk Pod to get some behind-the-scenes looks, clips from the episode, and also subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to get updates when new episodes go live. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.
Go vote.